With special corona status IDs, the British government wants to pave the way back to normality and enable large-scale events with spectators again, despite the pandemic. From Downing Street, it was said on Saturday evening that the ID system should be tested from mid-April at various major events, including the semi-finals and the final of the FA Cup at Wembley Stadium in London. The test events are to be officially announced this week. Prime Minister Boris Johnson said the government would do everything possible to help people return to events, travel, and do other things they love in the greatest possible safety, according to Downing Street. The status cards planned by the government in London are intended to show whether their owners have been vaccinated against the coronavirus, have recently survived COVID-19 disease, or have a negative test. The plan is for the ID to be in digital and analog format. There is massive criticism of the project. The opposition Labour Party, but also MPs from Johnson's Conservative Party, consider such vaccination cards to be discriminatory. Johnson's government in turn argues that the badges create the opportunity to open high-risk areas such as events to more attendees. The ID system should therefore be used wherever many people come together in a confined space, for example in discos, at festivals or sporting events. On the other hand, the ID cards should not be used in public transport or in restaurants. The project was welcomed by football clubs. The Manchester City Club wrote on their website that they are delighted that the Carabao Cup final will be played in front of 8,000 fans on April 25th at Wembley Stadium. With its corona vaccination campaign, Great Britain is ahead in Europe. 31 million people in the country have already received their first vaccination against the coronavirus, and more than 5 million people are fully immunized. After surviving the corona infection, however, almost a third of the patients have to return to the clinic for treatment. This is the result of a British study on long-term damage. Anyone who has ever been infected with corona usually has to struggle with symptoms such as cough, fever, or disorders of the sense of smell and taste. However, even after the symptoms have subsided, the corona infection is often not over, and I know what they mean. Researchers from the UK have now published worrying results on long-term damage, the so-called long COVID. In the study by researchers from University College London, the Office for National Statistics, and the University of Leicester, The Guardian evaluated the files of almost 48,000 people in their study. The patients who had to be treated in the hospital because of corona and were discharged by August 31st were taken into account. These data were compared to records from a control group from the general population. And the result is shocking. Almost every third COVID patient is admitted to hospital for further treatment within 4 months of being discharged. This is also reported by media. 1 in 8 patients died during this period. Corona is, of course, also an issue in my home state. Armin Laschet, the Christian Democratic nation boss and Prime Minister of North Rhine-Westphalia, has spoken out in favor of a hard and short lockdown in April in view of the third corona wave. This bridge lockdown should bridge the phase until the incidence numbers are so low that tests and follow-ups actually work and many people are vaccinated, said Laschet at the vaccination center in Aachen. Contacts in the private sphere, but also in the workplace, would have to be further reduced, possibly also through exit restrictions in the evening and at night. Germany is in an exceptional situation in which rapid action is now necessary, he says. In May or June, one could then enter a different phase. Laschet said he had consulted medical specialists over the Easter weekend and was in agreement with many prime ministers, the Chancellor and Federal Minister of Health Jens Spahn in his assessment. More speed and clear decisions are now necessary. Laschet therefore advocated bringing the Prime Minister's conference from April 12th to this week. The heads of government should meet in person and not just by video conference. The measures decided there had to be prepared carefully and supported by everyone, including states with low incidence rates. We mustn't experience another prime ministerial conference like we did last time, with discussions that lasted hours with hours of downtime, he says. He's not against granting the federal government more powers in fighting pandemics, but that is not going so quickly, which is why Laschet believes that an early prime minister's conference is better. Before the start of the summer, before the start of the summer holidays, that was it. Well over half of Germans would be vaccinated once, and the rate of vaccination will increase significantly from April, Laschet said. He said the saving goal is close. The last few meters require an effort. More needs to be done in the home office area. There are still far too many people on the move to work, says Laschet. In the 2 to 3 weeks of the lockdown, the home office offensive of the economy must move forward again. To this end, the federal government will again talk to the business associations about testing this week. The gastronomy had to remain closed, and contacts in the leisure sector would have to be reduced again. So it's a completely different picture, as you might see. And that's why I brought that up. And if you want to stay informed, please subscribe to my channel. Auf Wiedersehen.